Wrestling's darkest hours. Tragedies that changed the business forever. Professional wrestling is built on spectacle, danger, and larger-than-life characters. But behind the bright lights and roaring crowds lies a darker side. A side where real tragedy collides with scripted drama. These are the moments that fans still whisper about decades later. The nights when reality shattered the illusion. From a stunt gone fatally wrong on live pay-per-view, to murders, scandals, and family curses that cast shadows across generations. Tonight, we revisit wrestling's darkest hours. Stay with me until the end, because once you hear these stories, you'll never look at the industry the same way again. Chapter 1. Owen Hart, A Stunt Gone Fatally Wrong, 1999. Background on Owen Hart. Beloved performer, younger brother of Bret Hart, known for his humor, in-ring skill, and family man values. Fans respected him not only for his talent, but also because he never let fame consume him. At WWF's Over the Edge pay-per-view in Kansas City, Owen was performing as the Blue Blazer, a silly superhero parody meant to poke fun at other costumed wrestlers. The gimmick was lighthearted, but that night, it turned deadly. The stunt plan. Owen would descend from the rafters in a harness, then release himself comically and stumble into the ring. A parody entrance. The crowd would laugh. What happened? The quick release mechanism triggered too soon. Instead of lowering safely, Owen plummeted 78 feet, chest first, onto the ropes. The impact was catastrophic. The broadcast, the cameras cut away. Jim Ross and Jerry Lawler struggled live on commentary. Ross eventually delivered the heartbreaking words, "This is not part of the entertainment tonight. Owen Hart has died." WWE's choice to continue the show sparked outrage. Fans in the arena barely realized what had happened, but for those watching at home, the gravity was undeniable. Aftermath. Martha Hart, Owen's widow, waged a lifelong battle to protect his legacy from WWE exploitation. He has never entered WWE's Hall of Fame. Instead, his memory is preserved through the Owen Hart Foundation and AEW tributes. Legacy. Owen's death forced WWE to change stunt protocols, but the industry never truly recovered from the shock of losing one of its purest souls in such a public, preventable way. Chapter 2. The Mass Transit Incident, 1996. Setting: ECW in Revere, Massachusetts. A promotion built on blood, barbed wire, and chaos. Fans came expecting violence, but what happened that night went too far. Eric Koulis, 17, lied about his age and experience, pretending to be a trained wrestler. He called himself Mass Transit and convinced ECW staff he was ready to perform. Booked in a tag match with New Jack, one of the most feared hardcore wrestlers. Before the match, Koulis reportedly asked New Jack to blade him, make him bleed. Instead of a controlled cut, New Jack used a scalpel and sliced far too deep. Blood poured uncontrollably. Koulis screamed as the audience watched in shock. EMTs rushed in. The fallout: Koulis' father screamed from ringside. News outlets picked it up. Lawsuits followed. ECW's reputation for recklessness grew darker. Debate. Some blame New Jack's violent nature. Others fault promoter Paul Heyman for letting an untrained minor in the ring. Ultimately, it became a symbol of the dangers of wrestling's anything-goes culture. Chapter 3. Vince McMahon and the Steroid Trial, 1993. Wrestling in the 80s thrived on superhero physiques. Muscle-bound giants like Hogan, Warrior, and Savage. But behind those physiques was an unspoken truth. Steroids were rampant. In 1993, Vince McMahon himself stood trial, accused of overseeing widespread steroid distribution in WWF. It was the biggest legal threat the company ever faced. Hulk Hogan's testimony. Expected to bury McMahon, but Hogan carefully distanced himself, admitting to steroid use but not directly implicating Vince. That was enough to save McMahon. McMahon walked free, but his image was scarred. The trial exposed how little oversight wrestlers had, and how far performers felt pressured to go just to keep up appearances. Long-term effects. In the decades after, fans saw the fallout. Wrestlers from that era suffered heart attacks, addictions, and early deaths. The trial didn't end the steroid culture overnight, but it left a shadow that haunted wrestling for years. Chapter 4: The Plane Ride from Hell, 2002. WWE chartered a private jet after a UK tour, stocked with alcohol and filled with Attitude-era stars. What happened on that flight has become infamous. Wrestlers drank heavily. Fights broke out. Heads were shaved mid-flight. Someone was knocked unconscious. It was chaos in the sky. But darker stories emerged later. Allegations from flight attendants of harassment and feeling trapped in a dangerous environment. Lawsuits followed. WWE quietly settled. The boys will be boys locker room culture suddenly looked ugly under the spotlight. Today, the plane ride from hell is remembered as both outrageous and shameful. A story that shows how far out of control things could get when superstars believed they were untouchable. Chapter 5: The Murder of Bruiser Brody, 1988. Frank Goodish, better known as Bruiser Brody, was a legend. A feared brawler with a reputation for independence. He never played politics, and that made him dangerous in the eyes of promoters. July 1988, Puerto Rico, WWC locker room. Brody was called into a shower stall by fellow wrestler and booker Jose Gonzalez. Moments later, Brody was stabbed with a knife. Brody died from his wounds. Witnesses, including Tony Atlas, later said chaos filled the locker room. The trial. Gonzalez claimed self-defense. Many key witnesses never testified, either due to missing subpoenas or fear of retaliation. Gonzalez was acquitted and returned to wrestling. Theories. Some say Brody was targeted because he resisted booking plans and clashed with promoters. Others believe it was a planned hit. The truth may never be fully known. Legacy. Brody's death exposed how lawless the wrestling world could be, especially outside the US, where justice was far from guaranteed. Chapter 6: The Von Erich Family Curse. In Texas, the Von Erichs were royalty. Led by Fritz Von Erich, his sons became icons in world-class championship wrestling. To the fans, they were heroes. Behind the glory was tragedy after tragedy. David Von Erich died in Japan in 1984, officially of enteritis, though rumors of other causes persist. Mike Von Erich, devastated by pressure and injuries, took his own life in 1987. Chris Von Erich, battling depression and physical limitations, ended his life in 1991. Kerry Von Erich, perhaps the most talented, struggled after a motorcycle accident forced his foot amputation. Despite brief WWE success, he died by suicide in 1993. Kevin Von Erich is the only surviving brother, carrying the weight of his family's legacy. To this day, the Von Erich saga is viewed as wrestling's greatest family tragedy. A heartbreaking tale of expectation, pain, and loss that spans generations. These aren't just wrestling stories. They're cautionary tales. They show what happens when the drive for spectacle, fame, and control collides with real human lives. From Owen Hart's tragic fall to the Von Erich family curse, these moments remind us that behind the characters are people who bleed, who suffer, and who sometimes pay the ultimate price. Wrestling's dark side will always be part of its history, but remembering these tragedies ensures they're never forgotten, and hopefully, never repeated. So which of these stories shocked you the most? Let me know in the comments. And don't forget to subscribe for more deep dives into wrestling's untold history.